The pre-dawn darkness hung heavy over the Strait of Hormuz as USS Mason DDG 102 cut through the choppy waters at 18 knots on June 15, 2025. At 0400 hours local time, the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer was 42 nautical miles southeast of Bandar Abbas, maintaining her northbound transit through international waters. Commander Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge, her coffee growing cold as she monitored the ship's AN/S PY-6 AESA radar displays, showing clear contacts scattered across the narrow waterway. The strait stretched just 21 miles wide at this choke point, forcing all maritime traffic into predictable corridors under the watchful eyes of Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps naval bases. Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez called out from the Combat Information Center that multiple small surface contacts were emerging from Keshem Island's southern coastline. At first, the contacts appeared routine. Fishing dhows and coastal patrol craft typical of the busy commercial shipping lane that carried 20% of global oil supplies. But sonar technician Williams noticed something unusual in the acoustic signatures picked up by the ship's AN/SQS-53 sonar array. The engine patterns were too synchronized, too purposeful for civilian vessels starting their morning routines. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, the ship's executive officer, joined Mitchell on the bridge as the first rays of sunlight began illuminating the Iranian coastline to the north. Through binoculars, they could make out at least 12 small craft moving in loose formation, their bows pointed directly toward Mason's projected course. The vessels appeared to be Revolutionary Guard fast attack boats, likely the Siraj-class patrol boats capable of speeds exceeding 40 knots. Each boat measured approximately 50 feet in length and carried crews of 8 to 12 heavily armed naval personnel. Intelligence reports had warned of increasing Iranian naval activity in recent weeks, following the latest round of international sanctions targeting Tehran's nuclear program. At 0415, Mason's radar operator reported the small boat formation had increased speed to 25 knots and was closing the distance. Commander Mitchell ordered the ship to general quarters, sending crew members scrambling to battle stations throughout the 469-foot destroyer. The ship's two gas turbine engines spun up to full power, pushing Mason's displacement of 8,300 tons through the water at maximum sustainable speed. Within minutes, the close-in weapon systems came online, their radar-guided 20mm cannons swiveling to track potential threats. The Mark 45 5-inch gun on the forward deck rotated toward the approaching Iranian formation, its automatic loading system cycling practice rounds. Fire control technician Anderson reported all weapon systems showing green status lights as the crew prepared for potential combat operations. The Iranian boats had closed to within 8 nautical miles, well within the range of their suspected anti-ship missiles and rocket-propelled grenades. Commander Mitchell grabbed the radio handset to establish communications on international maritime frequencies. Iranian naval vessels. This is United States Navy destroyer Mason operating in international waters, she broadcast clearly. You are approaching a United States warship conducting lawful passage through international shipping lanes. The response came immediately in heavily accented English. American warship, you are operating in Iranian territorial waters and must alter course immediately. Mitchell knew this was false. Her GPS navigation system confirmed Mason remained in international waters, at least 12 nautical miles from Iranian territorial boundaries. The Iranian commander's voice crackled with growing aggression. You have 2 minutes to change course to bearing 090 or face defensive action. Through the bridge windows, Mitchell could see the Iranian boats had spread into a wide arc formation, a classic wolf pack tactical deployment designed to overwhelm larger vessels. The lead boats began weaving erratically at high speed, a harassment technique intended to create confusion and prevent accurate targeting. Petty Officer Chen reported from the radar station that 2 additional groups of small craft were departing Iranian naval facilities at Bandar Abbas and Jask. The total number of hostile vessels was now approaching 30 boats, creating a massive swarm threat that could easily overwhelm Mason's defensive capabilities. Commander Mitchell felt her heart rate increase as she realized the Iranians were implementing a coordinated strategy to force an international incident. The nearest American reinforcements were the Carrier Strike Group, centered around USS Gerald Ford, operating more than 200 nautical miles south in the Arabian Sea. The Iranian boats continued their high-speed approach, now closing to within 5 nautical miles of the American destroyer. Mitchell could see crew members on the Iranian vessels manning heavy machine guns and what appeared to be shoulder-fired anti-tank weapons. The lead Iranian boat suddenly veered directly toward Mason's starboard bow, forcing the destroyer to alter course to avoid collision. "Hard left rudder," Mitchell ordered, feeling the massive ship heel over as it turned to avoid the charging attack boat. The Iranian vessel passed within 300 yards of Mason's hull, its crew members shouting and gesturing threateningly at the American sailors. 2 more boats immediately took up similar attack runs from the port side, creating a dangerous pincer movement. Chief Petty Officer Thompson reported from the engine room that the ship's propulsion systems were running at maximum sustainable power. The gas turbine engines were consuming fuel at an alarming rate, but Mason needed every available knot to maintain maneuvering room. Commander Mitchell authorized the activation of the ship's electronic warfare systems, hoping to disrupt any Iranian missile guidance systems. The AN/SLQ-32 electronic countermeasures suite began broadcasting powerful jamming signals across multiple radar frequencies. Meanwhile, the Iranian boats had adopted a new tactic, forming 2 concentric circles around Mason and maintaining high-speed orbits. The outer ring of boats stayed at approximately 3 nautical miles, just outside the effective range of Mason's close-in weapons systems. The inner ring dared to approach within 1 nautical mile, well inside the range where their small arms and RPGs could damage the destroyer's superstructure. Fire control technician Rodriguez called out target solutions for the Mark 45 gun, but Commander Mitchell held her fire, knowing that shooting first would escalate the confrontation beyond diplomatic resolution. The Iranian harassment continued for 27 minutes, with boats making mock attack runs and coming dangerously close to ramming the American warship. At 0452, one of the Iranian boats suffered an apparent engine failure and began trailing black smoke. 2 other vessels immediately moved to assist, but the formation's discipline began breaking down as commanders dealt with the mechanical emergency. Commander Mitchell saw her opportunity and ordered Mason to increase speed and alter course toward the center of the shipping channel. The destroyer's powerful engines pushed the ship up to 28 knots, creating a significant bow wave that forced several Iranian boats to veer away. But the Iranians quickly adapted, with fresh boats arriving from coastal bases to maintain the harassment pattern. The new arrivals included what appeared to be modified speedboats carrying multiple launch rocket systems. Intelligence Specialist Williams reported intercepting Iranian radio communications, indicating preparation for defensive measures against the American aggressor. The situation was rapidly spiraling toward armed conflict, with both sides maintaining aggressive postures while avoiding the first shot. Commander Mitchell knew that Iranian tactics relied on provoking American forces into firing first, creating propaganda opportunities and justification for retaliation. Her crew was becoming visibly fatigued from nearly an hour of high-stress combat readiness, with several sailors showing signs of exhaustion. Gunner's Mate Peterson reported that the continuous target tracking was causing overheating in the weapons control systems. The electronic warfare officer noted increasing Iranian attempts to jam Mason's radar and communications equipment. At 0515, the Iranian formation suddenly executed a coordinated maneuver that brought 12 boats within 800 yards of Mason simultaneously. The destroyer's automated defense systems immediately went to the highest alert status, with computer-controlled weapons tracking multiple targets. Commander Mitchell felt sweat beading on her forehead as she realized how close they were to an automatic engagement. The Phalanx close-in weapons systems radar had locked onto 3 Iranian boats and was calculating firing solutions. "All stations, weapons tight," Mitchell commanded, overriding the automatic systems to prevent accidental engagement. The Iranian boats maintained their close approach for 43 seconds before peeling away in different directions. During those crucial seconds, Mason's crew experienced the psychological pressure of potential combat, with several young sailors visibly shaking at their stations. Boatswain's Mate Johnson reported that the continuous high-speed maneuvering was causing stress fractures in some of the ship's equipment mountings. The engineering officer warned that the engines could not maintain maximum power indefinitely without risking mechanical failure. At 0531, Iranian patrol aircraft appeared on Mason's air search radar, approaching from the northeast at low altitude. The aircraft were identified as modified Cessna light planes, likely equipped with surveillance equipment and possibly anti-ship missiles. This airborne element added a new dimension to the harassment, forcing Mason's air defense systems to split their attention between surface and air threats. Commander Mitchell authorized the launch of chaff and flare countermeasures as a precautionary measure against potential missile attacks. The silvery chaff clouds began spreading around Mason, creating false radar targets to confuse incoming missiles. The Iranian aircraft maintained a standoff distance of approximately 5 nautical miles, just outside the engagement envelope of Mason's surface-to-air missiles. Meanwhile, the boat harassment continued with renewed intensity, as if the Iranians sensed the American crew's growing fatigue. Several boats began making high-speed passes within 200 yards of Mason's hull, their wakes causing the destroyer to roll significantly. The psychological warfare was clearly taking its toll on Mason's crew, with radio chatter becoming increasingly tense and urgent. At 0547, one Iranian boat approached Mason's stern at high speed, apparently attempting to cross directly behind the destroyer. The boat's timing was miscalculated, and it found itself directly in Mason's wake at the moment the destroyer executed an emergency turn. The smaller vessel was caught in the massive turbulence created by Mason's twin screws and rudder action. Commander Mitchell watched in horror as the Iranian boat rolled violently and began taking on water. "All stop," she ordered immediately, bringing Mason's engines to idle to reduce the wake effect. 2 other Iranian boats rushed to assist their comrades, but the damaged vessel appeared to be sinking rapidly. The harassment pattern suddenly broke apart as Iranian commanders focused on the rescue operation. Mason's crew prepared to render assistance despite the hostile situation, following international maritime law requiring aid to vessels in distress. Lieutenant Hayes ordered the deployment of rescue swimmers and life preservers, but the Iranian boats waved off American assistance. Within minutes, the Iranian rescue boats had pulled the crew from the sinking vessel and were withdrawing toward their coastal bases. The remaining harassment boats maintained a respectful distance as the rescue operation concluded. Commander Mitchell used this lull to contact 5th Fleet headquarters via satellite communication, reporting the incident and requesting guidance. The response was immediate. Continue transit while avoiding escalation, with air support being scrambled from regional bases. At 0612, FA-18 Super Hornets from USS Gerald Ford appeared on Mason's radar, approaching from the southeast at high altitude. The presence of American fighter aircraft immediately changed the tactical dynamic, forcing Iranian boats to reduce their aggressive behavior. The aircraft maintained station 15 nautical miles from Mason, providing overwatch without directly threatening Iranian forces. This standoff continued for another 37 minutes as Mason completed her transit through the most congested portion of the strait. The Iranian boats gradually reduced their harassment activities, falling back to observe from greater distances. By 0700, Mason had cleared the narrowest part of the waterway and entered the broader waters of the Arabian Sea. The Iranian formation finally turned back toward their coastal bases, ending the confrontation after nearly 3 hours of continuous harassment. Commander Mitchell ordered the crew to stand down from general quarters, but maintained heightened alert status. The exhausted crew began securing from combat stations, their faces showing the strain of prolonged high-stress operations. Medical personnel reported several cases of stress-related symptoms among younger crew members. The ship's damage control teams conducted thorough inspections, finding minor stress damage to equipment, but no critical failures. Engineering reports indicated the engines had performed well, but would require additional maintenance due to the extended high-power operation. At 0730, Mason rendezvoused with 2 additional destroyers from the Gerald Ford Carrier Strike Group. The expanded American presence effectively ended any possibility of renewed Iranian harassment. Commander Mitchell filed her after-action report, while the events were still fresh in everyone's memory. The reports documented 27 separate incidents of unsafe navigation by Iranian vessels during the 3-hour confrontation. Intelligence analysts would later determine that the Iranian operation involved 42 boats and 6 aircraft from multiple Revolutionary Guard units. The incident represented the most serious naval confrontation between American and Iranian forces since the tanker war of the 1980s. Both sides claimed victory in subsequent propaganda releases, with Iran emphasizing their successful defense of territorial waters. The United States highlighted Mason's successful transit without loss of life or mission compromise. Oil prices spiked 12% in early trading as markets reacted to the heightened tensions in the crucial shipping corridor. Diplomatic channels remained active as both governments sought to prevent further escalation while maintaining their strategic positions. The confrontation demonstrated the effectiveness of Iranian swarm tactics against larger naval vessels in confined waters. It also highlighted the challenges facing American naval forces operating in areas where adversaries could achieve local numerical superiority. Military analysts noted that modern naval combat increasingly involves psychological warfare and rules of engagement constraints that favor smaller, more agile forces. The incident became a case study in naval academies worldwide, illustrating the complexities of maritime confrontations in the 21st century. For the crew of USS Mason, the experience served as a stark reminder that naval service involves constant readiness for potential combat operations. The strait remained a flashpoint for international tensions, with both sides continuing to probe each other's responses and capabilities. Commander Mitchell's decision-making under pressure received both praise and criticism from military reviewers examining the incident. The confrontation ultimately raised questions about the sustainability of American naval presence in contested waters without significant Allied support. Iranian tactics evolved following the incident, incorporating lessons learned about American response procedures and technological capabilities. The broader strategic implications continued to influence naval planning and diplomatic negotiations for months afterward. Both nations increased their naval presence in the region, setting the stage for potential future confrontations in the world's most important oil shipping corridor. The Mason incident became a defining moment in the ongoing struggle for control of vital maritime trade routes in an increasingly multipolar world.